right now on 5 on Your Side at 10.
Wicked Wednesday. The wind-whipped rain is gone. The change is happening Friday into the weekend.
But first tonight, team coverage of an ultimatum. The Missouri Attorney General demands Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner resign or face removal after a teen athlete loses her legs in a crash caused by a repeat offender.
She's in a considerable amount of pain. She still is in critical condition.
This as calls grow from members of Gardner's own party saying she should step down.
It's putting constituents in a position where they feel like their circuit attorney isn't doing the job.
Tonight, the Missouri Attorney General is giving Kim Gardner 14 hours to make her decision. Good evening, I'm Mike Bush.
And I'm Ann Allred. We have team coverage tonight of the fallout she is facing. Laura Barczewski is looking into the legalities of removing a prosecutor from office. But first, Brent Solomon has more on the criticism Gardner is receiving from both allies and political foes. Brent.
Tonight, the Missouri Attorney General says he wants the city's top prosecutor to resign by noon tomorrow or be removed. Also, the state Speaker of the House calling for Kim Gardner to resign in one of a litany of letters, all asking for the very same thing.
It's just been ball dropped after ball dropped after ball dropped.
State Representative Rasheen Aldridge making an about face. He supported St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner in her initial bid in 2016 and again in her re-election. But now the Democrat is calling for a fellow Democrat, Kim Gardner, to leave her post.
Things have to change. Things have to change.
He joins a growing number of lawmakers who are calling for the same. Wednesday, a host of tweets and statements from elected officials now saying enough, including this letter from Alderman Thomas Oldenburg. Quote, unfortunately, our circuit attorney has displayed a pattern of malfeasance that has caused irreparable harm to residents. End quote.
We have to have a circuit attorney's office that is working effectively and at full capacity with the trust of residents in our city.
Wednesday, Mayor Tashara Jones, a longtime Gardner ally, saying the top prosecutor needs to reevaluate her future. Escalating concerns coming after the tragic crash involving teenager Janae Edmondson visiting St. Louis for a volleyball tournament. Police say Daniel Riley sped down St. Charles Street, failing to brake, hitting several cars, pinning the teenager. She had to have her legs amputated. Riley was scheduled to go to trial for a different matter, an armed robbery. But Gardner never prosecuted the case.
The situation that happened over the weekend was the final straw that broke the camel's back. But at some point, you have to prosecute somebody. I mean, you have to be able to prosecute people that are doing wrong.
Now, within the past hour and 15 minutes, we got a statement from Kim Gardner. She began by expressing her sympathy to that teenager and her family. She says she will hold the suspect in this case accountable. She also goes on to say that she never wanted Riley to be out of jail. Kim Gardner says that judges denied her request for him to have tougher bond guidelines. Gardner says just last month she asked the court for a new hearing to address Riley's case, but she claims she never got a response. You can read her entire statement on KSDK.com.
The ultimatum from Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey came down just 3 hours ago. If Gardner doesn't step down, he will initiate the process to remove her from office. 5 on Your Side's Laura Barczewski continues our team coverage. Laura, you've learned how this removal process would work.
I have, and in Missouri, a prosecuting attorney can only be removed by a judicial process. But there are some other ways they could be disqualified if they're disbarred or facing criminal charges.
Under Missouri state law, prosecuting attorneys cannot be impeached or simply removed by a mayor or governor.
Impeachment is a more political process. We see that, with the presidency and other things. The process is in place for non-impeachable officials is more of a judiciary process.
5 on Your Side political analyst Anita Mannion says this judicial process is not something enacted very often, but the law says it can be initiated if there's proof they neglected their duties or committed fraud.
There would have to be an affidavit filed alleging these misdoings, and then the court would have to decide to appoint a special prosecutor to move forward with that.
State Senate President Pro Tem Caleb Rowden and House Speaker Dean Plocher called for Kim Gardner's resignation, saying if she doesn't resign or isn't removed, they're ready to take action and actually change laws over this.
The House passed a bill that is over in our chamber now that kind of highlights the possibility for a special prosecutor to be put in place, and if certain criteria is met relative to, crime and those sorts of things. So that's one thing that's possible.
Senator Rowden says nothing is off the table here.
I do think we could put different new standards relative to recall. I do think that we could re-explore the idea of concurrent jurisdiction for the Attorney General to step in and do the job if the job is not being done.
He says he wants to make sure the legislature is being cautious, though, about what they do and still wants to respect the will of the voters.
We want to be careful not to cast a really wide net that concentrates too much power at the state level.
The only way voters and the public will really have a say in all this is at the ballot box in 2024. Ann?
Laura, thank you. A mistake made by the St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office is having a ripple effect on one family's fight for justice.
Yeah, last night our I-Team told you about a robbery victim listed as dead who is very much alive. And tonight, our Christine Byers outlines how the case from almost 3 years ago keeps getting delayed.
Jim Dandridge's son was robbed at gunpoint in the summer of 2020. 3 men were charged in connection with that crime, including Daniel Riley, who is now charged with severely injuring volleyball player Janae Edmondson. A mistake in the paperwork showed that Dandridge's son was deceased, jeopardizing his case.
I would say I'm shocked, but it's par for the course for this attorney's office. Nothing, they don't get anything right. I'm just so shocked. I mean, this attorney, the prosecutor, we went to court with her a year ago. Why didn't she call and say, hey, if nothing else, I'm sorry to hear the passing of your son?
Earlier today, the I-Team told Jim Dandridge a second suspect in his son's robbery didn't make it to trial. Charges were dropped against Elijah Graham Tuesday in court. Graham's defense attorney filed a motion to dismiss the case after the circuit attorney's office told him the victim in the robbery was dead. He's not. He's alive. It's the second time this week we've reported how this robbery case has been falling apart due to misinformation from the St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office.
So now we have another armed felon who robbed my son at gunpoint out on the street and able to do the same thing all over again. I wonder when and if this case will be reissued. What's going on at our Circuit Attorney's Office? There's no accountability for anything. How does this happen? How can you mark on 2 different files that my son's deceased without any validation?
While a suspect in that case, Elijah Graham wore an ankle monitor. He violated it multiple times, according to his attorney, and prosecutors never filed a motion to revoke his bond. Tonight, he's a free man. I called and I emailed the Circuit Attorney's Office for comment on this story, and I have not heard back. For the I-Team, Christine Byers, 5 on Your Side.
Tonight, growing support here in St. Louis and around the country, giving the family of Janae Edmondson some comfort. The Tennessee teen's life has been tragically altered by a series of events many argue could have been prevented.
Robert Townsend is live outside of St. Louis University Hospital. That's where she is recovering right now, and Robert had surgery today.
And today, in fact, Janae Edmondson underwent surgery. Tonight, we're told she's holding on. Again, that as so many well-wishers are thinking about her and her family.
Janae is not out of this.
The past few days have been filled with a variety of emotions for everyone who loves Janae Edmondson. Of course, her parents.
And they've just, again, requested space right now, that they do want to talk. They do want to get to that point. They're just not ready.
And her friends, teammates, and coaches with the Mid-Tennessee Volleyball Club.
Kids that are as young as 11, as old as 18, as parents kind of walking through this. I think the ripple effect moving through our community is is starting to trigger some more thoughtfulness related to Janae and the family.
They're all pulling for the 17-year-old Tennessee teen who lost both legs when a car crashed into her while Janae walked to her hotel in downtown St. Louis. Today, the young volleyball star underwent surgery to have her wounds checked out.
She's in a considerable amount of pain. She still is in critical condition.
Meantime, the volleyball club's assistant director says the generosity and support for Janae, her family, and their club has been heartwarming.
Local clubs going to the hospital and giving money, giving gift cards, those sorts of things. That's been humbling. It's the gratitude has been overwhelming.
Wonderful acts of kindness.
We're going to do a purple celebration for her. That's her favorite color.
And they keep praying for Janae, who has a long road to recovery.
That we have not just hard days ahead, weeks ahead, years ahead, months ahead. We have hours that are going to be hard. The family is asking for prayers right now.
And we are keeping a close eye on the Pray for Janae GoFundMe account. So far, more than $300,000 in donations have come in to support her family. Live downtown and near South St. Louis, I'm Robert Townsend. 5 on your side.
And tonight, a community advocacy group is calling for changes in the wake of this tragic crash. Citizens for a Greater Downtown St. Louis says it's noticed a lack of traffic enforcement on speeding, running red lights, and constant shootings. The organization, along with other groups, even presented a 5-point plan to improve safety downtown to city leaders, but they say they've been met with silence.
These kinds of horrific crashes are completely predictable. We've had them before, but the city has consistently failed us. The criminal justice system has failed us, and that's led to where we are right now. We'd like to see people taking responsibility, being accountable, and taking action.
We spoke to St. Louis City police leaders today. They admit they're severely understaffed, but are adding extra patrols. For the latest developments on the political fallout for Kim Gardner and how to help the family of Janae Edmondson, you can check out our coverage on KSDK.com and on the 5 on Your Side app.
We are following breaking news tonight out of Orlando, Florida. 3 people are dead, including a television journalist and a 9-year-old child. 2 other people, the child's mother and a news photographer, are in critical condition right now. The news crew was reporting on a homicide that happened in the area earlier in the day.
No one in our community, not a mother, not a 9-year-old, and certainly not news professionals, should become the victim of gun violence in our community.
Tonight, a suspect is in custody. He's been identified as 19-year-old Keith Melvin Moses. It's unclear if he knew the journalists were members of the media or if he knew those other victims.